Here's an excellent write-up on changing your transmission fluid by Glekoff. Hope I'm saying that name right. This is following that procedure. Obviously, changing the filter. First step, of course. Remove the pan. There's 8 13mm screws. There's your pan. Clean that up later. There's a little drain plug, 5mm hex, and we could back that out. Put a pan under it and let the fluid run out. Looks nice and red. Prior owner did the transmission service a few miles back, but I don't have any indication of the filter. While that fluid is draining out, we can go look for the torque converter drainage hole, which is up here right next to the crossover pipe. So it might be a challenge to find it. Get the drain plug to line up with this hole in the housing. Easiest way to do that is just turn the torque converter slowly or quickly if you can with a screwdriver against the flywheel. Hopefully it's not 180 degrees on the other side. Oh good, here's the plug, and let's get it lined up just so. Alright, it's right there at the hole. Let me see if I get a close-up. Drain plug right there at the hole. So we got the got it lined up nicely. Alright, you need a 5mm hex key on the torque converter drainage bolt, and you need a little leverage because it's on there pretty tight. So there we go. You can back that thing out. Here's the hex key on the torque converter drainage bolt. Tight squeeze with the crossover pipe, but it just makes it. Alright, the torque converter is now draining. I'm going to get the pan right under it. The torque converter is loaded with fluid. It's been draining now for about 3 minutes. Still flowing at a pretty good clip. Alright, time to pull the pan. Just unbolt the pan with use a fresh bolt tray so we don't mix up the old ones with the new. We're dropping the last bolt on the pan slowly because there's still some fluid in the pan. Let that drain out. I guess there's about 100 mils of fluid still in the pan. Drain that out. Well, the pan looks nice and clean. I'll let this drain here for a while. I don't see any dirt or residue in here. So we'll just leave this here and drain. Well, I'll certainly want to match the new filter with the old filter. It looks exactly the same shape. That's good. This old filter comes off with three Phillips head screws. Oh, it's loaded. Filter has some juice in it too. Didn't realize the filter held so much fluid. It's draining nicely into the pan. I'm going to resist the temptation to wipe all this extra fluid off the transmission with a rag because, as advised by others, the possibility of introducing lint into the transmission is too high. Before you put the filter on, take a notice there's 2 quart gaskets here, and the old filter, one gasket came off, but this one here, the old gasket's still on there, so obviously you don't want to install that with that gasket in the way. New filter goes in just in the same spot as the old. Screw that on. New filter's in place, 3 Phillips head screws. Reinstalling the drain plug on the torque converter might be the hardest part of this job, because you're supposed to put 124 inch-pounds on it, but there's no way you're going to get a torque wrench on it, so you're just going to have to estimate it. And it came off with an aluminum crush washer on it, not a copper one. I was going to re-anneal the copper, but there's no way to do that with aluminum, so I'm just going to estimate 124 inch-pounds and call that tight enough. I'm just going to use brake part cleaner to get some of the remaining stuff out of the pan. Maybe do both sides. Let that dry. Here's where we can get the torque exactly right while the pan is off. The drain bolt should be 124 inch-pounds. Pan's nice and clean, but just to be sure, I'm going to rinse it out with a little bit of clean Dexron. Swirl it around and then just drain it out. Let that drip a little bit. Reinstalling the pan, clean the bolts up with brake parts cleaner. If I were going to show this car, I would have powder coated the pan, but it's not as a driver. Reinstalling the pan using the original gasket. I like the Mercedes part that didn't leak. You can buy aftermarket gaskets, but that's kind of dicey because some of them are not as good quality. So torque on this pan is 70 inch-pounds, which is a lot less than the drain plug itself. You don't want to put too much torque on these drain pan bolts. Alright, 70 all around, double check. 70, 70, 70, 70 inch-pounds. Good to go. Cleaned up the bottom pan. If I had more time, I would powder coat it, but I need to get this thing on the road. Before I put this on though, I'm going to fill it with transmission fluid because I want to see if there's any leaks around the gasket. We'll fill it with 7 quarts of the Dex Merc 3, and then check for leaks. Alright, I poured about 1.5 gallons in. That should be enough to just get it started. Alright, going out one more time to check for leaks. No drip standing still. Now start the engine and see what happens. Alright, with the engine running, you see no drips. Put it to the gears, reverse, neutral, drive, 2, 3. Okay, 8 bolts on the cross member. We're going to go to 33 foot-pounds, obviously. This is just to get them seated. One thing unusual here is this is a grounding strap going to the cross member bolt for the oxygen sensor, which should really have no resistance between the ground of the body of the oxygen sensor and the ground of the frame. Okay, 33 foot-pounds. 33. Alright, she's nice and tight all around. Might as well check the other 13mm bolts while we're at it. That one's a little loose. That one's a little loose. Oh, everything down here is a little loose. All torqued up, final inspection, check for drips, check for any loose parts, anything I missed. Grounding strap reattached to the oxygen sensor. The torque converter is not leaking. And everything looks good underneath. Might as well take a look at the other parts. Front end of parts are all been replaced. No oil drip or leaks. Alright, after running the engine a little bit, it's still cold. Pull the dipstick and let's see, 15 to 20 centimeters below the low mark. So on 7 quarts, that was a pretty good guess. I'm going to put a little more fluid in and then drive it to warm it up and check the level again. Next step is the test drive. Alright, the car's definitely hot now. Take it out for a test drive. Adding a new fluid. Don't see any fluid, so I'm going to have to add some. Yep, that's where we want to be. Not above the high, not above the low. I don't know if you can see that or not. Well, that's it for the transmission fluid change. Job is done. Okay, a day later, drove at 50 miles. Let's see how we're doing on fuel, fluid level. It's just below the low mark. I think we'll add a few milliliters and pull it right. Well, that's perfect. Just halfway between the high and low mark. Take a look at 2702 and 2710 in the maintenance manual for recommended torques and capacities.